Hello, YouTube land. Hello. I'm working on the Brakiri cruiser right now. I got some brass rod. I'm looking for the brass rod. Here's brass rod. Okay, this is not brass tubing, it's brass rod. It's 1.6 millimeters. I have my Tamiya handy drill. It's 1.6 millimeter drill bit in it. You know, this thing's kind of neat. It drills at a slow speed. That's what you need for working in plastic. The bad part is the cullet only takes a certain range of drill bits. But for what I'm doing right now, it works beautifully. And I cut up a whole bunch of different pieces of this brass rod. I did not cut it with wire nippers like these. What I used to cut it with was a cutoff saw I bought at Harbor Freight Tools. Here's a picture. Okay, you saw the picture. So what I'm doing next is I need to smooth off the ends of these guys. And then I'm going to, well, this is a bad part to start with. These two parts here, they're taped together right now. Let me undo the tape in one spot so I can show you guys a few things. There's one locator pin in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add two more of these brass rods across here and here. And I'm going to add two of them down here and down here. That way, when I glue this together, I'm going to get a really good tight fit. And it just adds more area to it for the glue to hold. I got some kind of long ones for this. And I don't know, they might be a bit too long when I look at it. So I might save the long ones. And of course, Carpet Monster was hungry and tried to eat that one. It might be a bit too long when I look at it, and I'm just sitting it. Yeah, don't you know you're on film and nothing wants to cooperate? Round brass rod on top of flat surface. Carpet Monster, hungry again. Alright, enough of feeding the Carpet Monster. In other words, I got some longish ones. The longish ones will fit across there. They're too long. I didn't cut them for that anyhow. I cut them for the vertical and horizontal stabilizers. Okay? I cut these guys more for this one. Now, one problem. Let me explain something real quick. I first started with the wire nippers. These cut the brass by smashing it together. So you end up with a flared out end. Well, this drill bit is 1.6 millimeters. This brass rod's 1.6 millimeters. You already see what the problem is. They don't fit in the hole from the drill bit. Then I got to get a bigger drill bit, or I got to follow the end of the rods. So I used the cutoff saw I showed you in the photo. It doesn't flare the end as much. I'm now going to take some time before I start drilling these holes. Little file, cleaning up the ends. So I'll be back once I get the ends of these cleaned, show you how to drill some holes and align them so you can pin your joints properly. Because if you're working with resin models, more than one person's advised me to do this, to add extra little pin joints. I've got some really big resin models in my stash. And from looking at those guys, I'm going to have to do a lot of pin joints on them. Just simply because of the way they're made. I can already see the need for learning this skill. Might as well learn it on a small model like this one. So I'll be back once I get all these brass rods filed. I've been filing brass pins. You can see all the brass dust right there. Okay? It is a slow, tedious process to sit here and do this. I got fed up with it. So what I did, got this thing out. Got it at Harbor Freight Tool. It was on sale for like $5. Alright, I got a collet in it that will hold my little brass rods in it. I stick my brass rod in the end, lock it. Ooh, it doesn't want to stay in place. Lock it down, pretty tight. Now I'm going to do a zoom in real quick to show you guys what the end of this thing looks like, if my camera's going to allow. Partial zoom, partial bringing her up to the camera, getting the camera to focus on it. You can see there's a lot of flash on the end of this thing. Okay? Now, zooming back out, I turn it on, and just hold it to the file. And I slowly tilt the file up, put a point on it. Now, sometimes this thing doesn't hold and I have to stop, loosen her up, re-tighten it down. I mean, this thing was cheap. I don't expect it. It's not like a Dremel. I don't expect it to hold up incredibly well. Alright, but I'm done with that. Now let's see if we can see what the tip looks like on that. As you can see, it's got a rounded over point now, just like a brass pin would have. And it'll kind of help me line it up and put it right in the hole perfectly. I've been doing that with all the little brass pins I've cut for the Brakiri Cruiser. Only have one end left on this one, and I've finished up like 15 or 16 of these 20 of these brass pins. Been time consuming. I've spent an hour doing nothing but filing brass pins with this thing. Doing it by hand, it'd have been 5 or 6 hours. Wanted to show you what I'm doing. I'll be back when I first start drilling holes. Can't wait, because once I get these pins in there, I get to put this thing together. Not many parts. This thing will go together quick, but then seam filling. Fun! I'll just start pinning the Brakiri Cruiser. Brakiri, there we go. About to start pinning the Brakiri Cruiser. I took a felt tip marker, this guy in particular, it's a micron pen, and I held the two parts I want to pin together, and I put some pilot marks on the sides. Let's zoom in a bit so you guys can see this. Put some pilot marks on either end. Then I connected the dots with straight lines. This will give me guidelines for drilling out the pins. I'm using a drill bit that is the exact same size as my pins in diameter. That means the pins are going to fit really tight. That also means I need to align the pins properly. Hence the straight lines, so I can find the center correctly. Up next, I'm going to mark over so far and then draw some marks. I'm putting 2 pins in the bottom, 2 pins in the top. We're going to start with this end, and I'll get drilling. Let me do some marking real quick so I can estimate where to drill on each piece. Okay? So I'm drilling at the 1/2 inch mark. I'm drilling at the 2 inch mark on this bottom piece here. Let me make sure I got the alignments correctly. I do. So I'm drilling at the 1/2 inch mark here. Now I'm going to do something before I drill to check my alignment. And then I want to drill the 2 inch mark, and that's going to be a bit harder to do because I've got an alignment pin right in the way here. Oop. And I'm trying to keep this going the way I want. I do have a micrometer, and I probably should use a micrometer for this. Some measurements 100% precise. But I don't think these things have to be 100% perfectly precise. Alright, I got them measured. We're getting Mr. Tamiya Happy Drill, handy drill. By the way, if you want to buy one of these, this is a model kit. You have a model kit that builds into a drill. The drill is specifically designed for plastic. We talked about that in an earlier episode. Okay, red tape on the drill bit is for depth indicator. That way I don't drill too deep into the resin. I drill too deep, I'm going to have to fix a hole on the other side of the resin, and I don't want that. I also don't want my pins sticking all in one side and a teeny bit on the other. That's about half the length of my pins, which are sitting over here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's zoom in and see if that will show up. Yeah, you can see the pins right there, and you can see that's about half of the pin length. Okay? So that's why I set my depth the way I did. Alright, I feel more comfortable wearing the cheap dollar store magnifying glasses. We're going to start with this one right here. I'm going to hold my handy drill at my drill point, and I'm going to try to keep her perpendicular. And I'm going to start drilling. Now, I can do this with a pin vise. I just don't want to. Okay? I've got that. It does a good job. I'm not trying to drill 100% perfect holes. And you can see I did not get that perfectly straight up and down. That's going in at an angle. It doesn't go in as far as I want it to. So I got to pull that pin back out and drill the hole a little deeper. Alright. I'm also not going to do 100% all of this on camera, because that will just bore the snikes out of everybody involved, including me most likely. So I need to drill that hole a little bit bigger. More email for me. That meow just means email. I'll be back once I get more drilling done, and I'm starting to worry about the alignment on this side and getting everything to align properly. That's going to be the critical side. Something happened I was afraid of. I got my 4 holes drilled. I got my pin line set in there. The pin line goes in, and look, it don't line up where I can line the parts up. So much for the measuring method. I can see what happened. One hole's drilled below the line and the other's right above the line a teeny bit. One way to fix that, you guessed it, bigger holes. So instead of trying to use drill bits that fit the pins very, very tightly, I think I'm going to go with a slightly larger hole. The pins are really there to spread the strength around so this thing doesn't shear this way easily or doesn't go this way easily. The glue is going to hold it well enough to go this way, but the glue won't hold it this way or this way well enough. That's where the pins come in. Holes are slightly bigger with the CA glue on there pretty liberally. I don't think it'll matter much. So I'm going to up my drill bit size and try again. Be back in a bit. That pin is in there. The parts are aligned. So I just have to go with a slightly larger hole. They fit, the kit parts now fit pretty tight together, and you can hear them clicking into place. But that pin is inside there now. And now I know what I have to do this. Slightly larger drill bit than the pins to give some leeway back and forth for alignment issues. Well, 3 more holes to draw, test fit, drill, test fit, then 2 for each wing, and then 2 on this. And, well, 3 for each wing, because I got to drill one on here too. I'm going to knock that alignment pin off there and replace it with my own. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more holes to drill. Once those 11 holes are drilled and all test fitted and everything lines up, I can get some glue out and glue this puppy together. I'm excited with this prospect. Once it's glued together, tons upon tons of seam filling. I know that, but that's not as hard as drilling these pins and get them into aligned. This is the first time I've really done this. I did some of this with the Godzilla build, but I cheated. I used Aves Epoxy Sculpt and just pressed the pins into the Aves. Okay? Because, you know, the Aves cures up fairly well. You will see that in another video. I actually used some Aves to glue a couple of resin parts together to see if it would work, and it did. So, the Aves does a good job of that. I'm not using Aves to glue these parts together. I'm going to use some super glue. But anyhow, I'll be back once I get more drilling done.